Good morning. Welcome to King's Report News Hour for the 16th year of Cheonggi, the first month and the 29th day of the heavenly calendar. We're getting pretty close to the end. Tomorrow is the last day of the first month, and then the second month will begin on Friday. If you're calling this January, then you're going to ask yourself, why does January have only 30 days? So that's why we don't use the Roman calendar names for the Cheonggi months, because it becomes very confusing and it's also inaccurate. All right, this is Tim Eld sitting in for the Second King of Cheonggi, and today is Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we sort of sit back and take a look at the bigger picture, biggest picture, and we go into some of the things that Father teaches, because you can come for the Second Amendment, you can come for the pro-Trump rallies and everything like that. or the motorcycles or everything else, or you can come for just the wonderful community, but you got to stay for the teachings, especially the Holy Blessing, which I've talked about a couple of times already, and some other things. And so these Wednesday talks are designed to tell people who may not realize that we actually have a theology to communicate to them that yes, we do, and it's an important one as well. It's not just a theology of um, one sort of religious group, but it's actually something that is necessary for everyone in the world. And today I want to go through the family pledge. Family pledge is one of the 8 documents that Father designated as his final will and testament to humanity. He called them the 8 great textbooks and teaching materials. And he said that there was his final testament to humanity. And it's a short document compared to the others. It has 8 verses. But it really is a wonderful summary, I would say, of Father's teaching in many ways. So today I wanted to go through this. This is a document that many of us try to recite as often as possible, or sometimes if you can't recite it from memory, to read it off of a sheet of paper. But anyway, to focus our attention on this document as often as possible. And I'm using the slides in the OSTP English language OSTP lecture series to do this today. And so here we have the family pledge, and then the family pledge in the word family pledge in Korean. And Korean is an interesting language. I just looked it up. There are 24 letters in the Korean alphabet, and let's see here, 14 consonants and 10 vowels. I see here, 14 consonants and 10 vowels. And you see that I just wanted to give a little bit of an explanation about Korean before we start. You see here there are 4 sort of groups. These are 4 groups of letters. And so we can think of each of these as a syllable. Ka, Jong, Meng, Se is how we pronounce that. And each syllable is made up of a number of letters. And so, for example, this first syllable is made up of 2 letters. This is a letter that's a consonant, and then this is a letter that's a vowel. And then this syllable is made up of 3 letters. This one actually has 1 consonant and then 2 vowels stuck together. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then this has a consonant and then a vowel and a second vowel, so 3. So it's written in very logical fashion. So if you just learn the 24 letters of the alphabet, then you can start to make sense of the Korean words. And Kajong means family. Kajong means family, and Mengse means pledge. And so that's how we get Kajong Mengse. Okay. Let's see. I thought I should have a pointer here, but I don't. Okay. All right. So I wanted to go through the family pledge, and we'll start with the first verse. First, we'll go. This is a explanation of the family pledge in general. That it represents God's ideal of creation. The family pledge does, And the family is the God's ideal of creation, and this pledges how we create that family that is the ideal of creation. The family is the basic unit of the kingdom of heaven, and I've talked about this, how in Father's teaching, individuals by themselves don't go to heaven. Families go to heaven. Husbands and wives and parents and children together go to heaven. And Father makes the point that it makes no sense that let's say the wife goes to heaven, but the husband is in hell, or the husband is distant from God. How is that for the wife then? Even though she may be close to God, how does that make sense? How can that be a comfortable situation for her if she loves her husband? So therefore, it must be then that husbands and wives go to heaven together. And of course, we say go to heaven as if heaven is someplace out there that we sort of travel to, but this is kind of the limitation of language in that actually we build heaven, we create heaven within ourselves, as Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Yes, that's where it starts. It starts by the unity of a mind and body within the individual human being. And then two people um, who have done that, who have united their minds and bodies, come together and create a family, create a husband and wife couple, first of all, and then children, create a family where God's love is reigning. And this is where the children learn how to love. It's the training ground for Shimjong. Shimjong, of course, being the irrepressible impulse of the heart to invest love in an object partner so as to experience love and joy. It's the training ground for Shimjong and true love. True love is the love that flows from God. The core of God is his Shimjong, that's the irrepressible impulse to give love. So that Shimjong is where true love comes from. It's the training ground for Shimjong and true love that allows us to be registered in the kingdom of true love. And the family is also the core body where the tri-generational love is unified. Tri-generation, of course, means the grandparents, parents, and children. So three-generation love comes together. And Father has taught that ideally it's good if three generations live together under one roof, or at least in the same compound or very near each other. So that the grandparents can teach their children, also their grandchildren, and also the young children can also have an experience with their grandparents and so forth. So he says that it's best if the three generations are living together. And also, the family is the basic unit of order for society and the nation. In other words, society and nation are made up of families, not of individuals. Of course, families are made up of individuals, but societies and nations are made up of families. This, of course, explains a great deal of why our societies and nations today are in such trouble, because we think of individuals making up our societies and nations, and people are not getting married. A lot of people are not getting married, and if they do get married, they choose not to have children. So they're not building the kind of families that Father is teaching about and what God had in mind in the beginning as his ideal of creation. If we want to have a world of peace, then and of harmony, then we need to follow the design that God had in mind when he created this world. And that design is based on the fact that the family becomes the basic unit of society and of nations. And that individuals each belong to a family, they have a role in the family. And they're not isolated from their families, but instead they are learning love in their family, they're teaching love in their family, and so forth. And also, In the family, absolute sex is important. Absolute sex, of course, means chastity before marriage and then fidelity in marriage, to put it very simply. It is the sexual purity, the purity of lineage, and the purity of love. So Father hopes that every person will have just one sexual partner during their lifetime. That's what absolute sex means. Just your spouse, one sexual partner during your lifetime, and investing yourself completely in that spouse. I think I've spoken before that about my experience of being married now for a long time, 40 plus years. Okay. 40 plus years since our blessing. This is our 43rd year since the blessing, and add another 4 since we first met and we first began to live as a couple. 47 years since that happened. But during our lifetime, we are in an ideal family, or in a family that is successful. We are studying and learning about our spouse and learning how to love my spouse. You can't just give a spouse whatever they want and expect them to accept it and expect that to contribute to the spouse's well-being. You have to know what it is that the spouse needs, wants, but also sometimes needs, and what it is about your spouse that you are able to help her or him develop. The spouse may have certain talents that even she doesn't realize. She may have talent as a writer, for example, or as a poet, for example, or as a cook, or as a community organizer, charity organizer, for example. It's the husband's, in that case, if it's the wife, then it's the husband. His responsibility is to identify those things and to help her then develop those things. And that's what's going to give her happiness. And then she will, of course, return love also to the husband in the same way. So people say, oh, we grew apart. We don't love each other anymore. So we're getting divorced. Well, that's because you haven't been studying each other. You haven't been learning about each other. You've been living your own lives. Even though you called yourself husband and wife, even though you registered with the state registered with the government as a husband and wife, but you are not really a husband and wife unless you are really building something consciously. Building something consciously. A successful marriage, a successful family does not happen automatically. That's why we say that we are building the kingdom of heaven within the individual and also within the family. It takes effort. It takes conscious effort to know what needs to be done and to do it. So, and so then the true family being a family that is of God. And anytime we say that something is true, we're talking about something that is of God, that is godly. So the true family is the eternal homeland of humankind. And Father uses the word homeland a lot. And this is the place where that people want. This is the sort of the ideal that we have in our hearts, the place where we would like to live, or not necessarily a geographical place, but a psychological place, they could say. We would all like to be in a harmonious family. I think people who say that they like to live alone, maybe because their experience with the family has been dysfunctional. But if we could have a harmonious family where our emotional needs are met, where our physical security is preserved, and where we can rely on financial help during hard times, certainly then that's the kind of place that people would like to have. And so people, because they don't have that kind of family, they sort of adopt other groups as a family. A church congregation often becomes a family. The workplace often becomes a family. There was this TV show. What was the name of that TV show? Anyway, about a bar where people would go, and the theme song said, "Oh yeah, it's nice to be in a place where people know my name." What was the name of that TV show? I've forgotten it. It escapes my mind right now. I'm sure many of you know it in America. Yeah, people like to be in a place where uh, they are loved, they are appreciated. And if they can't find that in their physical family, then they find that sometimes in a bar, right? Or in church or in work, uh, other places, other organizations. Substitute for a family. But these places should not be substitutes for family. Instead, they should be an expansion of the family. So, in other words, we have that emotional support in the family. We have that physical security in the family. We have that sort of financial stability in the family. And then from there, we expand to our workplace. We expand to our community organizations such as church. And I don't know about a bar in the Cheongguk, maybe a ginseng bar. I don't know. Maybe a bar that sells a ginseng tea. Who knows? But anyway, places like that will be an expansion of the family, not a substitute for the family. But in today's society, they become substitutes for the family. And so uh, uh, and sometimes gangs, will be that, right? Violent gangs will be the sort of the substitute for the family. Those are obviously, something that goes against the order of society, but people will be attracted to gangs because that's where they find that they are accepted. And that's unfortunate, but that is a reality, I think, in many cases. So the family, to developing this family is important if we are to develop a society that is peaceful and is of harmony. And so that is the eternal homeland of um, humankind. And the family pledge then is the backbone and the core and the order of the family. So the pledge, you'll see, is a pledge that where we talk about the kind where we are promising to God and pledging to God, that this is the kind of family that we are trying to develop. Not that we have developed it, but that we are trying to develop. And this is why it's important to, and useful, I would say, both important and useful to recite the pledge quite often. I know many families have made a habit of reciting it, husband and wife together, and also children together sometimes every day or at least once a week, so as to continually remind ourselves of exactly what it is that we are trying to do in the family. And so it is the backbone of the family, it is the core of the family, and it represents the order of the family. It is the absolute standard for realizing Cheongguk and the core, and it's also the core of the Cheongguk Constitution. So now, Cheongguk, I want to explain a little bit about the Cheongguk. Cheongguk is a three-syllable word that is actually the is actually uh, a, a shortened version of a longer seven-syllable word. The seven-syllable word is 천주 평화 통일국. 천주 평화 통일국. And 천주 means cosmic. Cosmic. 평화 means peace. 통일 means unity or unification or unity. And 국 at the end is nation, or can be translated as nation or kingdom. So 천주 평화 통일국. And when Father said, okay, this is the name that is attached then to the Father's vision for the ideal world, for the ideal society, for ideal world, the cosmic nation of peace and unity. This is how it's translated normally into English. Cosmic nation or cosmic kingdom of peace and unity. And so Father said, well, that's, 7 syllables, that's a mouthful even for Koreans. So let's shorten it down to 3. Okay, let's take the first syllable, chun, and let's take the last syllable, ku, and let's take a syllable in the middle, the il from 통일, or unity. Okay, so then we have chun, il, ku, 천일구. So that 3-syllable phrase that we often use in our community is actually a shortened version of that of the longer word, which translates as cosmic nation or cosmic kingdom of peace and unity. And to remind ourselves, I've talked about this before, but to remind ourselves, there are 6 things that have to fall into place for this cosmic nation or cosmic kingdom of peace and unity to come about. And here Father lists them. Number 1, people in the world have to know God with certainty. Have to know God with certainty. And I've talked about this. It means knowing someone. It's not enough to believe in God. Believing in God is just the beginning. But we have to know God as well as we know the person sitting next to us. His existence, God's existence, has to be as real to us as the person sitting next to us, or our children, or our spouse. And we also need to know God, meaning we need to understand about what makes God tick, basically, and the various aspects of God that we go into when we give the OSTP lectures. And then the second thing that is required for us to have this unified world of peace, or Chonryuk, is for people to know spirit world with certainty. And unfortunately, many people don't know spirit world. They think that, ghosts and goblins and angels, these kinds of things, they're just mythology, and they don't really exist. They do exist. And spirit world actually has there's teeming with people who have passed on, because every human being that has ever lived still exists in spirit world. And by the way, this includes the babies that were conceived but did not actually make it to the point where they were born. And so there are, my father gives numbers anyway in the hundreds of billions of people, and also angels. And I don't know how many angels there are in spirit world. God has created angels to work as messengers and as sort of helpers in the creation process. So have to know spirit world with certainty. And if we know spirit world with certainty, then the way that we live our life changes. Because we understand then that actually what we are doing here in the physical world is that we are preparing ourselves for the spirit world. We are preparing ourselves for the spirit world, because that is where spirit world is where we're going to live eternally. There's no end. And I say live, but actually I should say exist, because not everybody lives. To live, you have to be connected to the source of life. And there are some people who are not connected to God, the source of life, but they will exist. They will exist also without being connected to God. And their life in spirit world, their existence in spirit world, will be difficult. And that is what we call hell. But again, hell is not something that God sends you to. Okay, you go this way, you go that way. No. Hell is something that we create for ourselves. Father said that that hell is kind of like the trash bin. He said if you're building a home, you don't put a trash bin in the design of the home, right? When you're designing a home that you want to live in. But once you've built the home, then you have stuff that you need to throw away. And so that's when the trash bin comes into existence. And so Father explains about hell in that way. It's not a part of God's original ideal of creation, not a part of his original design. And it is, though, a place where people find themselves of their own doing when they go to spirit world without having a connection to God. And God is the source of life. Yeah. And so you have to be connected to God in order to have life, to have eternal life. And then let's go back to that list. Say then, so certain knowledge of God, certain knowledge of spirit world, and then the number 3 then is to know true parents with certainty. And these are the 6 things that we need in order to have Hanyuguk, in order to have a unified world of peace. We have to know true parents, or Christ. In other words, true parents are Christ. We need to know true parents with certainty. And we need to know with certainty that we are fallen human beings, that we are sinners, that we need to repent. And we also need to know the principle of restoration through indemnity with certainty. And this means taking responsibility for our own sins, but not just for our own sins, but for the ancestors' sins and responsibility for the sins of the particular group that we may belong to. I'm a white person, so white people in general have committed certain sins, and I cannot escape from that. I cannot say, "Oh, I wasn't around them. I'm not guilty of that." No, I also have to take responsibility, pay indemnity for those sins, for those sins to be wiped away. And also, we need to know the human portion of responsibility with certainty, which we've talked about. We are created by God, but God allows us to participate in our own creation. In fact, this is an important, very important thing, because it is by fulfilling our portion of responsibility that we become qualified to be the sons and daughters of God, that we are qualified to be the lords of creation. And without that, then we are not qualified to do those things. And a portion of responsibility is what separates us from the rest of creation. So those are the 6 things that are necessary to build Chonryul. All right, let's go back to slide number 5. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, well, let's go with this slide number 4. Okay. And also the family, so this is we were talking about the absolute standard for realizing Chonryul. And realizing Chonryul involves the 6 things that I just listed. To know God, to know spirit world, to know true parents, to know that we are sinners, to know that, to know about the restoration for indemnity, and to know the human responsibility, human portion of responsibility. Know those 6 things, to know clearly about those 6 things. The family pledge is also the gospel of gospels for connecting our lives with God. This is why this document is one of the 8 testaments that Father has left for humanity. And it is also, the family pledge is also opening the gate, key for opening the gate to the kingdom of heaven. It is also the prayer of prayers. Right? So if you find yourself unable to pray for whatever reason, you can simply read the family pledge. And that is a prayer. That is a wonderful prayer. It is the blessing of blessings given by heaven to humankind. And it is a pledge. The family pledge is also a record of the victories won during the life of True Father, our true parent. And it's comprised of 8 verses. So already half hour has gone by. I'm not going to be able to get through all 8 today, but we'll see how far we can get. So I'm listing here the Korean and the English. It's not a long document, And I think with a little bit of effort to learn the basic alphabet and to learn the pronunciation, I think you can memorize this. If you're like me and you're in your 70s, maybe not. But I think many people can, or at least you can come to a point where you'll be able to read it off of a piece of paper, a sheet of paper. It's just one sheet. It fits onto one sheet. And I think it is very powerful. Words have power, and I think it's very powerful to do this in Korean. I believe that the God of love revealed his truth, his new expression of truth, in a language that everyone can learn. And I think this is why Korean has this very logical and very easy to learn alphabet. And actually, it was, which century was that? Anyway, several hundred years ago, one of the Korean kings said that, we need to have an alphabet for our language. Until then, Koreans were using Chinese characters, which very difficult to learn. And so peasants and farmers, people who, had to spend their lives actually making a living, had to learn all those characters. And that meant that they could not write documents appealing their situation to the king. In other words, they may be treated unjustly by local authorities or something like that. But in order to appeal their situation to the king, they would have to submit their claims in a document, but they couldn't write those documents. And so the king said, well, let's figure out a document. Let's figure out an alphabet. Let's figure out an alphabet. And so that's what they did. And maybe in the human history, this may be the only good thing to ever come out of a committee. Yeah, he had actually appointed a committee, and they worked this out. They worked it out. Yeah, and it's developed over the years. Obviously, even English. I think in the last 400 or 500 years, it's changed a lot, and also the Korean alphabet. Korean language has changed a lot since this alphabet was first developed. I've forgotten exactly the name, the century now, but maybe the 12th century, something like that. But anyway, you got to feel though that this was developed in preparation for God revealing His truth in the Korean language. I mean, think if God had revealed His truth in Chinese or in Arabic or in one of the languages such as Thai language with all the sort of squiggly things, that would be much more difficult. Even English. Um, People have a hard time learning English, but this alphabet, the alphabet itself, is not difficult to learn. And then you learn the pronunciation. So here, for example, here again, this is a here Chun Il-kuk. This is the word Chun-il-kuk here. Okay. And Chun-il-kuk is composed of 3 syllables, obviously. Chun, Il, and Kuk. And so working that way, you can start to figure this stuff out. Chun has three letters, Il has 3 letters, and Kuk has 3 letters. And then this word is Chuin. The second word here is Chuin, all right? And then the first syllable has 2 letters, and the second syllable has 3 letters, and so forth. So it's not a difficult language to learn at this basic level. Of course, if you start getting more advanced, then it becomes more difficult. So I think it would be a very good goal for people to decide that you're going to tackle this thing. And of course, you tell yourselves, you sort of kind of brainwash yourself in many ways. When I was learning Korean, I told myself that Korean was created by human beings. I'm a human being, so therefore I should be able to figure it out. Well, that's kind of a simplistic thinking, but that was one way in which I sort of encouraged myself or pushed myself to keep going until I could actually make sense of this stuff. And it does take a lot of work, especially for people who are coming from European languages. But I think it is well worth the effort. It's just one document. It's just one page, one 8.5 by 11 page. That's all it is in terms of the volume. So let's go through here and see what it says. And I put the English translation down here, but I want to go through the Korean though with the English because I think because of the difference in grammar, the order of the words is different, and I want to point out the order of the words in Korean. So here, as I mentioned, this is Cheonryuk. That's the first. It begins. That's how it begins. 주인 means owner, and 우리 means our, and 가정 is family, and then 은 is a grammatical thing that you stick on. So here you see that actually. So as you see in the English, our family, the owner of Cheonryuk. So that you have a noun phrase here where the family is the subject of that noun phrase. And in English, you put the our in front of the family, just as you do in Korean. And in here, the owner of Cheonryuk follows that, but in Korean, it comes before Cheonryuk 주인 우리 가정은. And then pledges, this is the verb that comes next in English, but actually in Korean, it's down here. It's at the end. Pledges to seek our original homeland. So here, 본향 땅을 찾아 is actually corresponding very well to that. 본향 땅, 본향 is a phrase that Father uses often, meaning original homeland. 땅 also meaning land. And 찾아 means to seek. And again is another grammatical sort of a thing that you stick on to show what different words are doing in the sentence. So 본향 땅을 찾아, to seek our original homeland. So here already, well, in English we're already saying the pledges, but here this is comes at the end. So we're pledging all of this that comes before that. 본향 땅을 찾아, 본연의 창조 이상. So this is an important phrase in Father's teaching. 본연 means original. 창조 이상 means ideal of creation. 창조 means creation, and 이상 means ideal. 본연의 창조 이상. So in Father's teaching, what is the original ideal of creation? Immediately we should be able to say Genesis 1:28. That's where God expresses his original ideal of creation to Adam and Eve. Be fruitful, multiply, have dominion over the earth. That is God's ideal of creation. Being fruitful, meaning that the spirit self, which I explained, I think previously, spirit self grows on the physical body. The physical self becomes sort of the fruit of the physical self. The physical self nourishes it, and it becomes the fruit of the physical self, and it becomes fruitful. It becomes mature. In other words, so being fruitful means to complete our character, to become, well, Christ-like, as Christians like to say, to become Christ-like. In Father's terms, it means mind-body unity, where the mind or the spirit self or the physical self or the body. And the mind is where we relate with God. That is where we receive God's love and his word. And then the body then is where we put that love and word into actual practice in our daily lives. And the problem with sinful human beings, though, is that the body takes over. The body takes over with its desires of sex, food, sleep, and so forth. Those physical needs take over. And they exercise dominion over the spirit. And so we don't live according to the word of God that we receive. And in fact, our communication system with God is even blocked because of the sin that we have. And so the original ideal of creation is Genesis 1:28. With being fruitful, then multiply, meaning that we have a family, as I mentioned already, that is has God as its center, and that is where the family is the training place for shimjong and for love and for true love. And then we also have dominion, meaning that we have dominion over the God's creation with God's perspective, God's position. Right now, we're doing a terrible job of having dominion over the earth. We're destroying the earth right now. Of course, the communists like to accuse us of that and try to use that to destroy God's ideal. But it is true. It is true that there is a lot to be desired for the way that we are exercising dominion over God's creation. So, 본연의 창조 이상인, and this here the original ideal of creation is down here, and then so here the 지상 천국. 천국 means kingdom of heaven, and 지상 means earthly. And here 천상 천국, against kingdom of heaven. 천상 means heavenly. So the earthly kingdom of heaven and heavenly kingdom of heaven. 창건, to create these or build these. And here centering on true love is down here in English. Up here centering on true love is at the beginning in the Korean. So 천의국 주인 우리 가정은 참 사랑을 중심하고. So centering on true love, so our family, the owner of 천의국, centering on true love. If we do it the Korean way, centering on true love, we're going to seek the original homeland, and this one you really have to reverse the order in Korean. And we're going to create or build the earthly kingdom of heaven and the heavenly kingdom of heaven, which are God's original ideal of creation. Which are God's original ideal of creation. We're going to do all of this centering on true love. And what is true love? True love is the love that flows from the core of God. It is a love that that gives and gives and gives without taking account of what it has given. In Father's terminology, giving and giving and giving and forgetting that it is given. Forget that it is given. Just continuously giving with no limit. You don't stop and say, "Hey, wait a second! I've given enough here. I think I'm going to slow down." Oh, but in true love, there's no such thing. God does not do that, does He? God doesn't do that. No. True love is very difficult. Every one of us, there's a limit to the amount of love that we can give. But true love, there's no limit. And so to really love with true love is a challenge, and we are challenged. Sometimes we are challenged by our spouse. Sometimes we are challenged by our children. Sometimes we are challenged at work or in society. But when we come up against the limitation of our love, and we always come up against the limitation of our love, again and again and again, we have to sit down and figure out how to go beyond that limitation. Now, true love doesn't necessarily mean giving people whatever they want, right? True love means bringing people to God, for example. And frankly, they may come kicking and screaming. Well, we don't want to actually drag people, but to God. But people will reject our efforts to bring them to God. We've all experienced that, haven't we? But we know that everyone needs to come to God in their own way somehow. And so true love can mean that praying for a person. It can mean creating opportunities for a person to experience God's love. And creating an opportunity for that person to also to grow in their mind-body unity. The more a person grows in their love, the closer they're going to be to God, whether they realize it or not. Until at some point they're going to understand, oh, wow, all this time it's been God that has been with me, guiding me, helping me. And so that's what true love is. And so true love takes wisdom. It's not just automatically giving someone whatever they're asking for. It's taking a parental position. And it's one thing to take a parental position over your own children, but if you're taking a parental position over your boss at work, that takes wisdom, doesn't it? If you sort of make it obvious that that's what you're doing, he may not appreciate it. So it takes wisdom. That is what true love is. True love is not just a feeling or just a many splendored thing like the song says, but it's sacrificing ourselves for people. That's what true love is. All right, and then here, let's see if I can move this up. There we go. And here, an explanation of the concept of owner or chuin. But an owner takes an interest in something. I own a car. It means I take an interest in that car. I maintain it, and I make sure that the oil is changed and the tires have the pressure that they're supposed to, and make sure that it's clean and stuff like that. And also, owner takes responsibility for something, and it protects the thing that he owns, and it nurtures that thing. I don't nurture a car, but if it's a pet or a plant, I suppose, or then we're nurturing. Or an organization. If we're an owner of it, we are taking ownership position over an organization. Then we're also nurturing that organization. So that is an explanation of what it means to be an owner. And God is owner. And Chuin sometimes is translated as master. But you can see how those two concepts would come together. All right, then let's go to number 2. It looks like maybe we're not going to get very far today. And here I've got the English on a separate slide because it was too long to put the two on the same slide. And the feedback that I received is people still like to have it on the same slide. All right, but the first line is the same. In fact, the first line is the same for all 8 verses. Chanryubu, right? Chuin, we already said was owner. Uri means our. Kajon, family. And then un is a little grammatical thing that you stick in there. Cham sarang. Cham sarang is true love. Cham is true. We have cham pumo, for example, true parents. Cham sarang. Cham hananim, true God. And we have a lot of cham in our community. Cham sarang. Sarang is the word for love. 중심하고, centering on. So our family, the owner of Chanyu, centering on true love. Okay, we're going to do something. We're going to pledge something. The verb to pledge is down here at the end. So everything that is between here, from number 2 to number 5, is what we're pledging to do with true love, because we are a family that is the owner of Chanyu Group. Hananim means God. Hananim, and qua is the sort of the conjunction and. Cham pumonim, true parents. Moshio means to attend. Let's go through the English. I don't want to confuse you too much with too much Korean. Our family, the owner of Cheongguk, pledges to number represent and become central to heaven and earth by attending God and true parents. So already the number 2 line here in the Korean is down here in number 3 in English, by attending God and true parents. So we're we're pledging to attend God and true parents in our family, that is the owner of Chanryuk. And then 2 and 3 are reversed. In Chunju, we already talked about Chunju being part of that 7-syllable long word. It means cosmos or cosmic, cosmos. 대표적 가정. 가정 we have up here is family, and down here again it's family. Become a family, representative family of the cosmos. To become a representative cosmos. This is the verb to become a representative family of the cosmos. And also to become a central family. 중심 means central. 가정이 돼요. So we are pledging here 2 things: to become a representative family and a central family. And here the English translation is a little bit misleading, I guess. But we're pledging to become a representative family and a central family, representing the cosmos and being central to the cosmos. Now, those are similar but 2 different things. You may say, well, how can every family become central? Well, each family is central because each family is accomplishing God's ideal of creation. And each family is representing the cosmos because we are a microcosm of the cosmos. And so then we do this by attending God and true parents. We cannot do these things separate from God and true parents. We cannot just be off by ourselves doing it. We have to be part of this community that is attending God and true parents. And then 가정에 쓰는 효자. And then and here there's a whole list of things that we are going to 완성. And in OSTP every year I talk about 완성. And some people like to translate 완성 as perfect or perfect when it's used as a verb. I prefer complete. The reason I prefer complete is because it's like when you are building a building. Let's say a contractor is brought in to build a church, all right? And then at one point, then the contractor will go to the owner and say, okay, it's done, it's complete. Here's the key. Now you can begin using it as a church. So to 완성, in my understanding of the Korean word, means that something is now ready to be used for its originally intended purpose. And I think if we say perfect, that has some different connotation in English. Father is a 완성, and his character is 완성. His character is completed, but is it perfect? You have to ask, well, what does it mean to be perfect? Is he never going to misspell a word? Is he always going to speak with correct grammar? You know, some people say, well, okay, those are the sort of details, but in the big things, well, I think complete expresses the situation much better. When something is completed, when a person is completed, then for the first time, then that person can start to live as a human being, the type of human being that God originally intended to have. That is a completed human being, person with mind-body unity, right? And when a family is completed as one son, then that is a family, the kind of family that God originally intended to build in the Garden of Eden. God wanted Adam and Eve to create a family under his governance. They did create a family, but it was under Satan's governance, right? They did with Cain and then Abel and then eventually Seth. They had at least 3 children that we know about in the Bible, but that was under Satan's governance. but they did not create the kind of completed family that God wanted to see. And so here we are pledging here to create a series of things here, to complete a series of things here. 가정에서는 효자, so a filial child in the family. 국가에서는 중심, patriot in the nation. 세계에서는 성인, a saint in the world. 천주에서는 성자, then a divine son and daughter. 가정의 도리, so and 도리 is what is expected of someone in a bigger context. As a husband, there are certain things that I'm expected to do for my wife, and as a wife, there are certain things that she's expected to do for me. And also, as parents, there are certain things that we are expected to do for our children, and I'm sure you all know what those are. I don't have to go into them here. So to complete all those, to complete that whole list of things, being the filial child in the family, and here again, we have to have the family. We have to have the family. You cannot accomplish God's ideal without being in a family. The family into which you were born, and also the family that you are starting on your own with a member of the opposite sex. 가정에서는 효자. So in that family to become a filial child, but then beyond that, then we have to be a patriot in the nation. We have to be saint in the world. Saint in the world means that we sacrifice ourselves to the world. We live for the sake of the world. And then one step beyond that is to be the divine sons and daughter for the cosmos. And we are pledging to do all of these things in number 2. Let's look at the English. Our family, the owner of Chanukul, pledges to represent and become central to heaven and earth. And okay, our family pledges, I suppose. So I guess, okay, you could see the meaning there. By attending God and through parents, and we pledge to perfect, or as I say here, complete, maybe a more accurate translation. Yes. The dutiful family way. And dutiful is the English translation for Tori. Family way of filial sons and daughters in our family, patriots in the nation, saints in the world, and divine sons and daughters in heaven and earth. But here, they take Tunju and they break it down to heaven and earth. And I don't like this because Father took God's truth, which cannot be fully expressed in any human language, and he sort of translated it and kind of shoehorned it into the Korean language as best he could. And in doing that, sometimes he would create new words. Sometimes he would give new meaning, new definitions to existing words. And Tunju is one of those words to which he gave a new definition. And Tunju in Father's teaching is the totality of God's creation. Both God's creation is composed of 2 parts, right? In Genesis 1:1, it says that God created the heavens and the earth. And Father's explanation, this is referring to the spirit world and the physical world. And because heavens is listed first, that indicates to us that heavens were created first, the spirit was created first, and the earth, physical world, was created after that. So totality of God's creation is Tunju. And they break it down to heaven and earth, and I guess they think that they're I say they, but anyway, the people who made this translation think that they are making it easier for people to understand. But anyway, that's a difference in how things are translated. All right, so that brings us to the end of today, and I'll have to continue this, I guess, at a future date. Let's see, next Wednesday is going to be what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I think I can. We'll see. I'm pretty sure I can be here next Wednesday, but we'll have to see. Next few days, you may not see me. Beginning this coming Saturday, I've already asked the tech team to play a rerun on Saturday, and I think that's going to happen. And I hope that I can be here with you on beginning on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the only Saturday. I hope that only Saturday is the only day that I'm going to have to miss. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.